It's now 8:30. We should run for the next 2 or 3 hours and see how far we would be. But surely we must finish tonight. Thank you so much, General, for coming back. Honorable Lady, we recognize your presence here and welcome. And we give the microphone to Honorable Sols. Your 30 minutes will expire at 9 o'clock. And you will be on the discretion of the chairperson for no more than 15 minutes. Your time starts now.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to confirm is Mr. Romano ready for me? Because I don't see him in the chambers, and I will need him in like 2 minutes, Chair. I have arranged with him, but I don't see him in the chambers.
Yeah, Mr. Romano is the man.
All right, I see him now, and he's indicated he's ready. General, good evening to you.
Good evening, sir.
Earlier with Honorable Matisse, you shared that your understanding of my use of the word holes means shortcomings. I want to confirm that. That is indeed what I mean when I say holes. I mean shortcomings. And you admitted to having shortcomings. So it's undisputed. You are indeed a national hero with holes. And then you said something which obviously spoke volumes. You said, you're not much of a Christian, but many Christians are afraid to die. I want to confirm with you, I'm one of those believers who is not afraid to die. There's a scripture that says, for me to live is Christ, and for me to die is gain. I fear no man, only the one who can send my soul to hell. Then you also mentioned something about a person sharing something about, it looks like I am against you. And the perception that is out there. Now, General, I want to confirm with you, I've always had the position that it's important for me to uphold the integrity of this committee. So I have to be always independent and always focus on the evidence. I've opened myself up to anybody, because what I wanted to do was I wanted to have all views so that at the end of the day, my decision can be independent, my comments can be independent, and everyone that has ever spoken to me, I've always been open about my position that share with me whatever you want to share, no matter which side you support, but give me evidence and I will test it. So one thing that you can be sure of then is that whatever I'm saying to you today is not influenced. It is my independent position. One other thing I did, General, I went to KZN. I wanted to also get a feel of, apart from the evidence and things. And I must say, in front of the nation, KZN is big. I used the Ubers, and I had at least 3 Uber drivers. Kwanda, Zakile, and Mswawenkosi. And all three of them spoke well of you. Now, if Uber drivers, and it was young people, can speak well of you as a provincial commissioner, that speaks volumes. Now, as you've admitted, you do have holes too, and I've seen some of it, but those holes does not take away from the fact that you are doing a great job. And I've seen it. And I want you to watch something. Now, the honorable members, I'm sure by now, is very tired of my voice. They are going to have to deal with it. It's my time. But I would like you, General, to indulge me. And this was a speech I did in Parliament, April 2025. And you are mentioned in this. And I want you to hear it. Would you indulge me, General?
That's correct. I was just making note of that speech so I can be able to recheck it again. But I'm listening.
I was about to say, as you were. Mr. Romano, please frustrate my colleagues.
Savior Jesus Christ, Mwenke Awuniki. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Greetings in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Kendrick Lamar, a popular American musician, in his Super Bowl performance went viral when he did his hit entitled "They Are Not Like Us." The subliminal messaging resonated mostly with African Americans because it seemed like Lamar was addressing the elephant in the room, saying that the former slave masters who infringed upon the human rights of the former slaves are not like us. But surprisingly, the descendants of the former slave masters danced along to the tune in agreement, and the question is why? Because every system of oppression and slavery is built upon and kept alive by the ideology that they are not like us. For as long as whites say of blacks they are not like us, and blacks say of whites they are not like us, then we will have a bill of rights with a system that is still not right. We say they are like us. When the People's Assembly, made up of black, white, colored and Indian, gathered in Kliptown to sign the Freedom Charter, it was because whites and blacks said of each other they are like us. Anton Franz fought off apartheid police, and when they threatened to kill him, which they did, he screamed "Kohaume," because when he, as a 20-year-old colored African, looked at his black brothers and sisters, he said they are like us. When our Khoisan forefathers welcomed Portuguese, Dutch and British settlers for a temporary stay, and they forcefully made it permanent, it was because they believed that they are like us. If we are going to deepen social justice and human rights, we as South Africans will have to say I am you, and that is Ubuntu. When we see Rassi leading the Bokke to represent our national unity globally, we must say that is us. When we see KZN Provincial Commissioner Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi win his fight against crime, we must all say that is us. When we see Minister Mackenzie stand for the inclusion of all races in DSEC, we must say that is us. We will only deepen social justice and human rights when those who are corrupt amongst us, whether white, black, colored or Indian, of them we must all say they are not like us. Those amongst us who loots, they are not like us. Those amongst all of us who are racist, they are not like us. Those amongst us who kidnaps our children like Jocelyn Smith and rapes them like Kwekwe, they are not like us. Those amongst us in the GNU who continuously returns to the default colonialist setting of arrogance, who pretends to fight for all South Africans against the VAT increase, but when asked for alternatives, they speak only of Cape Town and Richards Bay ports devolution, exposing that they are only concerned about what they consider their country, Cape Town, and definitely not the poor parts of it like Mitchell's Plain and Langa. Of them only we must say they are not like us. And Federan, we don't have a bill of black rights, colored rights, Indian or white rights. We have a bill of human rights. We won't take 4 acres and a mule. We shall pay market value for it and share the rest fairly until we are all owners. We are all South African. We are all Africans in
General, today, that was April 2025. Today, I want to look you in the eye and tell South Africans that is us. I mean it.
Thank you, sir.
General, Lady Justice has a blindfold. And so sometimes the law will not see truth, but the Lord will. And I want to encourage you Always walk in repentance of your holes. I'm about to close, and I want to say two things to you as I say goodbye. One, I have something I disagree with you with, and a lesson I've learned from you tonight. One, my disagreement. I disagree with the statement you've made to Honorable Adams when you said sometimes education is important. You need to go to school so that you can read. Indeed, education is important, but we must respect our Constitution. That member, there are people out there who voted for him and gave him 2 seats in this parliament without school. We have our former president, Jacob Zuma, who's self-taught, taught himself 5 languages, taught himself to read. He calls Robben Island his university. The man was the first citizen of this country, and in 3 or so months made history, built the 3rd largest party in this country, no school, and the largest party in the province that you lead as the provincial commissioner. We don't know each other's history. I disagree with many things Honorable Adams has said. And I took the things that I thought had basis and I shared it here. And there's many things that were said about you that I disagreed with. But I measured it. And the ones that I didn't believe, I discarded. But it doesn't mean that I should sit here as an MP myself, knowing the community he comes from, knowing that there's colored boys that are looking at him and at least sees that if he made it to parliament, they can too. And so that statement, I vehemently disagree with it. The lesson I've learned from you, when you said, you didn't mention the meeting that you had with Ket Matala at the time when you came to testify because there's information, his life at risk and so on. What I've learned from that is that sometimes the right information in the wrong room is dangerous. General Mkhwanazi, I wish you well. Wish you all the best. In your tenure, your new tenure in KZN, may you do more to make that province safer. May you remain a national icon and a national hero with oath. God bless you. And remember, God has entered the ring. Salute, General.
Thank you so much, sir. Salute.
What did I say to you when we started here? That today is
Thank you very much, Chairperson. This is now the second time that Honourable Souls gets me caught off guard, because he's usually very stringent on using all of his time. But thank you very much, and good evening, General.
Good evening, sir.
General, I think we've, in this whole process, heard a lot of allegations. Allegations made by you, starting on the 6th of July, and also in your first appearance here and in front of the Mdlanga Commission, and also from other witnesses, some making allegations against you, some making other wild allegations, some trying to advance their innocence as well, in terms of the allegations made by you or by others. And it's very difficult for Parliament to actually get to the bottom of what is true and what is not, because we're not investigators, and it makes it quite difficult. And to a certain extent, one wants to say that there's not an abundance of truth that was here in front of us, and that makes it very, very difficult. I want to just go back to the explanatory witness statement that you submitted, General, with the evidence regarding the allegation of the money paid to former Minister Becky Cele. And I know this you did speak to this morning at great length, but I do just want to revisit it because I think it's quite important. Would you agree that from this evidence, from the WhatsApp messages, the two affidavits, that it's quite probable, almost want to say clear, that Captain Hlala's intention was to pay the 7,000 rand into former Minister Cele's account? Do you agree?
Yeah, well, that's a feeling we have, considering the communication he had with the gentleman, and subsequent to that, he then start asking, "Who are you?" And after noticing who the person is, he then deletes the communication. So that's what makes us believe when you look at the similarities of the numbers
Exactly.
and the title that he uses to address the person.
Exactly. But what do you think would have been the reason for him to have wanted to pay the former minister? Because if I look at the dates, those messages of a payment took place in December 2024. Those messages were sent to the person, the wrongfully identified person, the wrong number, on the 27th of December 2024. So that's after Big Cele was not minister anymore. What could he have wanted to pay him for, in your opinion?
We really don't understand, because when you look at the figures, the amount, and it's not that much. So, and when we also been told by this gentleman, there were a lot of documents that went to him. So we really don't understand the reason behind the messages and subsequent to that, the money. So I really wouldn't understand. Perhaps it's something that was discussed over the call that perhaps might have made Ket Matlala to then send the documents on WhatsApp only to discover later maybe he saved it wrong. We're not sure.
But if one looks at paragraph 4 of the affidavit of the person that the message was sent to and the 7,000 rand was paid into, he says that from the messages that he received from Captain Hlala, Captain Hlala already paid 50,000 rand to someone, but that he was not getting assistance. If you read in paragraph 4 on, I don't think there's page numbers.
Second line on page 2.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, the second page of the statement. And then later he said he'll pay an additional amount for extra service, is the words this person used. And that's most probably from the messages that were sent to him. But this is a few days, about 20 days, if I remember correctly, after the raid at Captain Hlala's house. And it was a few days before the directive of Minister Mkhwanazi. Am I correct? So am I correct to to say that it's probable that this holds that there's some connection here, or don't you think there's any connection?
Between Minister Mkhwanazi's
Directive, the raid at Captain Klala's house, the extra service. The question that we don't have an answer to is what would the former minister have influence on to assist Mr. Mkhwana with?
Yeah, no, what our understanding as a team is that there's a possibility that the relationship between Ket Matlala and probably Minister Cele, the former Minister Cele, has something to do with this contract that seems like Matlala want assistance. The directive of Mr. Mkhwanazi come 2 or 3 days after that conversation. And we know that after Minister Mkhwanazi has sent that directive, or before he sent the directive, he had given an instruction for this contract to be cancelled before the directive. So surely if there was a connection between the two of them, I don't see why would then Matlala engage with Cele on this if it was. But instead, Matlala will be in good terms in engaging with Cele to make sure that nothing that what Mr. Mkhwanazi said must happen. But Minister Mkhwanazi had given a directive that something is not right with this contract, so therefore something must be done to correct the wrong.
See, because if one also looks at the messages that were sent to this person by accident with the wrong number, wrong digit in the number, there's a lot of documents that were sent, and it was deleted. Now, the problem is, or my thinking is, that we heard from other witnesses the allegation that former Minister Cele is ruling the South African Police Service from the grave, was the words that were used. The National Commissioner denies that. He says he can't see truth in that. But do you agree that if one looks at this, it makes one think? Because there's a raid, there's a search at the premises of Kat Mkhwana. We saw the messages between Kat Mkhwana and Brown Mkhwanazi, that there's an unease about what's happening now. He pays someone 50,000 rand, and he says to what he thinks is Minister Cele that is not getting the assistance that he actually wanted. And then he pays an extra 7,000 rand. It is a very small amount, strange amount. But it seems as though he thinks that Minister Cele would be able to assist him in this criminal issue. Or am I sitting with pot miss?
Well, I wouldn't know. What I know is that perhaps in regard to what happened on the 6th of December, is that Mr. Matlala's property was searched.
Yes.
And firearms were taken. But he was not arrested. The only thing that happened there was a search and firearms taken. So when he engages with General Cele in relation to the firearms taken, in relation, or if you engage with him in December, I would like to believe perhaps it might either be about the firearms, which I heard General Cele talking about, or alternatively something to do with what Minister Mkhwanazi has started in dealing with the contract. But what we know from communication is that the only communication from Ket Matlala that we see at the time when they were engaging, it's from the phone that was found from him later. There was a phone that was found from Ket Matlala on that raid of the 6th of December. But I'm told that they couldn't open the phone. So as a result, they could not see what was inside. and the phone was given back to him. So that's a communication that is missing. But the other communications that happen thereafter are the ones that takes us back to that conversation of December. But we know that during that December time and going forward, it was with Mkhwanazi and it was also with that Mr. Suleiman Karim from Northwest. Those are the two people that CAT seems to have approached for intervention on the contract.
On a different issue, but you now mentioned phones and data on phones. You earlier spoke on the devices of Minister Mkhwanazi, and you said that he deleted certain messages. But don't the organization have, the police have the technology to retrieve deleted messages? So is that not possible?
It has been retrieved. It's exactly what I was saying. They didn't know that.
Okay, I just wanted clarity on that.
Yes,
so the messages aren't gone?
No, they're not gone.
Okay.
They were erased, but they're back now.
Okay, well, that's important. The question I think have been asked to you, but I want to ask it again. Is there factions in the South African Police Service, especially in top management?
Well, it might not be directly, but you're probably going to get that. I might not necessarily confirm or say there is one now, but there was a time in the South African Police Service where we had such. And the faction was mainly about those that regard themselves as comrade, politically connected, and those that were regarded as, call it apartheid police, if you will. People that grew up in the service, that were not part of the non-statutory force, and those that came from outside as part of non-statutory force. So we've had that situation in the police.
Do you know what I think nobody can deny, if one looks at all the evidence and all the testimony that we've heard and that's in front of the Mkhwanazi Commission as well, is that there's syndicates operating. There's, as you also put it, the big five is actually nothing against, I think your words were earlier today, the big bras. That's even more dangerous. And that is, that's very concerning. But what actually worries me more is that it seems as though there's also a lot of ad hoc corruption, if I can put it like that. There's a lot of, let me first qualify, there's a lot of dedicated, good police officers out there that serves South Africa and that serves and protects. But there's also a lot of corrupt and corruptible police officials. That's not necessarily part of this whole network. But, and I want to commend you for also admitting this earlier today, or for highlighting this, that there's too many generals. Because we've heard of a lot of police officers during this 5+ months, but it's very few times that it's not a general. It's either a major general, lieutenant general, and a lot of them are on suspension. I have been suspended. All these allegations against them, and I want to thank you for highlighting that, because it seems as though we have a very top-heavy police service, but also that a lot of, or some of, those top management are living extremely high lives. It's as if they are pop stars with Durban Julys and parties everywhere, and they're not actually there to serve and to manage the police service. Would you mind to comment on that statement?
Yeah, well, there will be amongst us that will live large. But again, until an investigation is conducted, lifestyle audit is done, people might be justified why they're living a large life, because they might be coming from rich families and got inheritance, they've got businesses, because we are allowed to do business as well. There are businesses that they are running that gives them income. So there are many reasons that some of the colleagues might live large. But it's something that we see, but we don't investigate. So what that becomes a problem, because we end up not knowing what is the source of the wealth that we see before us, but it's there.
But now there's a very big problem, and that is, I think it will always be at odds end with each other, is a police service and an internal investigating unit such as IPIT. You will always have fraction or problems between the two. But it seems as though IPIT is abused. But you can't really do anything about this very deep-rooted corruption if IPIT is not actually functioning. How do we get IPIT to function? And to have when there's investigations, that it's not said that it's just factions or it's driving a certain agenda or it's infiltration. How do we clean it so that we can get rid of the corruption?
Honorable members, I think if you have, number one, people that are very disciplined, dedicated, and not politically inclined that are leading that institution, the abuse of their powers will not be realized. I'm saying this because of so many cases that IPIT have opened, which are cases that who cannot justify why they came up with those cases. A typical example, it's when they wrote to me and they said the Minister Mkhwanazi registered a complaint with them. They wrote it in black and white. The head of investigation who's currently acting, who was not there when the letter was written, flew to KZN to withdraw that letter. And he gave me a 2-paragraph letter to say it was not a minister, it was an anonymous complaint. But 2 weeks later, he told the acting minister. The acting minister told the National Commission told me. When I confronted him, he started denying. But he told the acting minister that the chief of staff is the one who complained. So then I asked a question, well, why was he not honest? If it's a chief of staff, most likely it's a minister then. Why are they trying to cover it up? So it is that behavior of the head of the institution, which the acting is already compromised. So once we have such individuals, we're not going to get a good IPIT running. There is a section in the IPIT Act, I don't have it in front of me, I cannot remember. It's a section that they're abusing. The intention of the legislature, I believe, was to make sure that the powers of the police are controlled. Police don't go out in their own making, just kill and assault people, things that are alleged by some of the lodge or these people that came in here. That's why IPIT exists, so they can investigate such behaviors and correct it, take those police officers who do wrong to court. But there was an insertion of a section in that act that gives the powers to the national director to initiate a case, not because there was an action that was done by the police in a line function. They themselves, they can act like police. They decide they don't like you, they suspect to be involved in the wrong, they investigate you. It is that section of the act that might need to be relooked at. You remove that section, IPIT become a vanguard of the police on what police does and be able to correct. That is one. But on the other side, IPIT must be capacitated. If we're to really look at it, pains me. Well, I'm not working for them. But it pains me when you look at the resources that they have, human resources and many other resources that they need to be able to carry out the task. If the police has done wrong, and if there's a collusion in the police with the wrong that the police have done, one of the things, typical example, we could be involved in a shooting, police officer shot and kill someone. The forensic that attends, IPIT is a detective, but the person who tells the crime scene is a police officer. not an IP expert. So that police officer, if in Khaut with the one that shot, they'll mess up that scene. Evidence is collected, is packaged, is sent to forensic lab, and you wait for the result. Whose lab is this? It's the same SAPS lab. Then IP must rely on the same SAPS lab. So if the collision between the police, the results coming out of that lab will not be positive.
Yes.
And then IP won't be successful because IP don't have their own alternatives of conducting the investigation. So it's some of those things that might be looked at. If we strengthen those things, perhaps we might have a good institution going forward.
Thank you very much, General, for that. I think it's valuable. I also think one should consider having some kind of, that the head of IPIT may never be considered to become National Commissioner, for instance, because that's one of the allegations, obviously, is that certain things were done so that a certain person could become National Commissioner. But that's just a by the way statement. Just one last question, or there's a lot of ridiculous allegations that have been made against you as well. Not even going to, I don't think anybody is going to ask you that, but it was made under oath. And that is something that's quite upsetting in this whole process, as was that people do not take the oath serious at all. I mean, it's even being said under oath that you are a CIA agent. I don't have to ask you if you are or not. But there's also, I've received an affidavit that was made this evening. And you mentioned earlier today when you were talking of the blue lights that escorted Honorable Adams to the prison. You spoke of a conference call that will take place. Am I correct? Between someone that will testify. There's a case that was opened by Detective Sergeant Thomas this evening, alleging that he was kidnapped and his cell phone was taken and was intimidated on your instruction to get a statement on the blue light situation. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, well, that moves very fast. I like that. Honorable Chair and members, the team is investigating the movements of Mr. Adam. And he goes and he lands in Durban. He is taken with blue lights. He goes to prison. He does what he does in prison. The person that arranged this movement with blue lights for Mr. Adams is a policeman working under me in KZN. This policeman is the one that opened the case. He's a cousin or nephew of Mr. McBride. This policeman, well, I did not know he's related to Mr. McBride, but over time, he's always been sending me a message to try and arrange a meeting between me and McBride. I know it, and I hope he's not going to change it. His profile on WhatsApp, I think, is that of Fidel Castro. That's what drew my attention over time, every time when he sent the messages. But I never saved this message, but every now and then you'll be talking about McBride. But there's a profile that I noticed that's the same person. The team wants to meet with him. I conducted District Commissioner General case in the morning, that the team wants to meet with him. I also phoned General Gopal, who is the acting Deputy Provincial Commissioner responsible for investigation, to try and locate this member. Because at one stage, he's from Brighton Beach Police Station, but at one stage he was deployed in the task team in the provincial office that was dealing with drugs. He was working there. And I'm told he has since gone back to Brighton Beach. So I'm talking to these two because the other one's a district commissioner and the other one possible as the acting deputy. If he's still within the team, he might find him there. So they locate him and they tell him to come to the provincial office at General Gopal's office. The team goes there to go and investigate. And I must say, this is a PKTT. It's not just any other team that went to him.
I wanted to ask you that.
Because it's related to the Cindy Somakatwa case that the PKTT is investigation. So it is a PKTT that deals with this case. They go to the provincial office 15 Bramfish in Durban at 17th floor. They meet up with him at General Gopal's supervision. They interview him about his role, because the other members that were driving, in their statements under oath, they said he's the one that requested, tasked them to go and get Mr. Adams from the airport. We got his name from the members that were doing the job. So when he has to then explain himself, it's part of the investigation. It looks like he did not tell the truth in that interview they were doing with him in the police building. That's what they told me this evening. And they obtained a statement from him. Subsequent to that, they took his phones because they wanted to download them right there and there. I guess he did not expect that the phone are going to be downloaded, which means some things might come out of those phones. So they downloaded his phone. When they finished with him, he allegedly went out. When they were done, they all left. He went straight to the police station. He talks about kidnapping. So it's an investigation IPAT must take and investigate, I hope. And so I can be able to tell, how did he get into the office? Was he forced to come to the office? What happened in the office? There are cameras there in the building. And when he left, at what stage was the kidnapping? So it's one of those which I think is putting up a case because he does not know how to justify his action. So for me, sitting here after being briefed, and I really said, he's part of the problem. He's caught now, a year later. He does not know what to do, but the truth will come out.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
to Mr. Adams for making the team aware about these things.
Thank you very much, General, once again. Thank you.
Honorable James.
Thank you, Chair. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
What South Africans desperately want to know, and me, is who exactly is the Big Five cartel? And while I understand and respect that criminal investigations are ongoing, I want to ask a series of very important questions that will help the people of South Africa and this committee come closer to the understanding of the extent of the capture of the criminal justice system. We want to know who are these thugs that has been feeding drugs to our children. And I stand here today as victim number one. I am an extremely angry South African. I am angry because for years I've been sending information to people and tip-offs about drug dens in my community. And in 2026-25, after 15 years of activism, calling the president to El Dorado Park and ministers, an entire cabinet, having a presidential intervention in my community, and it's business as usual. I could never understand. Today I understand. I have on my phone here dozens of messages I've been made a fool of for years to General Sipia, giving him tip-offs on drugs. So yes, I am angry. You need to help me here today. I've done my own analysis. There are certain things that doesn't matter to me, and then there's this. When you spoke on the 6th of July and you said you touched a nerve, they feed our children drugs, and this is why you see most of our communities cannot go forward, because the entire community has been criminalized. They arrest everyone with 1 and 2 packets of tik, and they don't go after this rot that's here, because they are the rot. So I need you to help me here this evening because ons kan nie wag vir nog 'n 10 jaar to uncover the mess and uproot it. My first question, what is the primary nature of the relationship between Sibia and Kat Matlala?
What we understand, the relationship will be that of a police officer protecting someone that's a criminal, which is got history and different criminalities, not just one. But it's a criminal relationship between the two.
Let me add to that. Sibia, DNC, second in charge in this country, accused of receiving money from Matlala, being the most senior SAPS official in the cartel. Am I correct?
Is the most feared by another generals.
So he's the
within the
most senior and he's the most feared in the cartel. Leaked confidential information through Sergeant Nkosi to give Matlala and Mkhwanazi, Msibi and others. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Brought in Rashid Ismail for kidnapping as a so-called expert. Am I correct?
That's a name, correct?
That's a name.
Yep.
Honorable Matthys asked you earlier on, who was the investigating officer? I put it to you, that investigating officer that Sibia was introducing to the families of the victims that were being kidnapped is this man, Rashid Ismail.
We've got on record his transfer money payment with Sangi.
Who is Sergeant Nkosi?
Is a detective that works at the head office.
Am I correct that he acted as an errand boy, intermediary for General Sibia and members of the cartel?
Is one of the runners, as we had depicted on our sketch that we projected earlier.
Got my eie sketch hier. He collected money from criminals, worked in organized crime unit, but was effectively detached to run Sibia's errands, collected bags of money and packages from Molefe's house. Am I correct?
There is a person who's been moving around a lot between the group of people.
Okay. Did Sergeant Nkosi, on behalf of Sibia, collect money from members of the cartel, such as Kat, Molefe, Msibi, and others?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't have evidence of money, but what in his own words said to me, he's been moving things between them.
I already touched on this. I'm getting ahead of myself. Who is Rashid Ismail?
I don't know. I don't know who the person is, but he, of course, even said he's an expert in kidnapping. I don't know who.
But you've heard this name before.
Yeah, well, when the team were investigating and they saw that payment, they told me who the person is. Otherwise, I did not know about
A
it.
payment between?
That Rashid and Nangi, the person that has been a suspect of kidnapping and known as a kidnapping kingpin in Mozambique.
Okay. What is the nature of the relationship between Sibia and Rashid?
From what I gathered is that they are friends working well together dealing with kidnapping cases.
So let me say this to you. So-called expert involved in kidnapping cases abroad, linked to Sibia, who facilitated his appointment by families to negotiate ransom. This is what Sibia does. And allegedly received kickbacks when the families pay. This is Sibia. This is his guy. He's not even registered. What is the nature of the relationship between General Richard Shibiri, Kat Matlala, Molefe, and Msibi?
What we gathered from the investigation of members is that Shibiri was the head of organized crime in Gauteng. When he started investigating issues that touch these drug kingpins, his life was threatened. So he then had to ease up and join the crew. So that what led into him being moved from Gauteng and elevated to be the head of organized crime at the head office.
And Shibiri is the one who tipped off Matlala about the December operation at his house. Am I correct?
I know of Sergeant Nkosi who did that. I'm not so sure about Shibiri's role.
Received money from Matlala, 70,000?
Yeah, well, according to the money that was moved to him in order to pretend as if he did not receive the money, as if it was a loan, he transferred it back, but he got it cash.
And
And
he is the head of SAP's organized crime.
That's correct. He's the one appointed a panel that was chaired by Jarasbia.
I need to breathe. What is the relationship between Feroz Khan and Sibia?
I'm not so sure, but as far as I could hear in the past was that it looks like the relationship was not that good, because at one stage, CBI had recommended disciplinary steps against Jarrah Khan. But over time, they found convergence around the minister, and then they started working together.
Okay, now we've seen these pictures over the last couple of days. Witness testimony at Madlanga, including WhatsApp messages, suggests a special relationship between Khan and Matlala. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Matlala also allegedly claimed to have provided financial favors to Khan,
That's correct.
including a claim that Khan demanded 2.5 million but was paid 500,000.
That's correct.
There are also allegations regarding Khan's use of a penthouse in Menlyn.
I heard about that.
Khan is said to be linked to Malema and has been pictured at the same house as the hitman linked to Witness T. This is what's on social media.
That is correct.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, I know they're close. I know Mr. Malema through Khan myself.
What do you know about General Feroz Khan's alleged relationship with individuals linked now to illicit cigarette smuggling, drug dealing, and kidnapping?
It's no secret that Khan had accompanied those individuals during one of the EFF gatherings, a political gathering celebrations in Johannesburg. So from there, we could deduct that they've got a close relationship beyond what then the investigation has revealed afterwards.
You know about the relationship between Sibia and Stuart Shanik, who appeared alongside him in this very house.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what links the two of them, but I did see the video.
Stuart Shanik, criminal with 34 criminal cases, 18 of which resulted in guilty findings, claims he rented his bulletproof car to Sibia for 60,000 rand a month.
Yeah, well, we are investigating that Mr. Shalit's about many other things. So when the relationship started and the nature of the relationship, that I cannot confirm now.
Okay. Let me move beyond SAPS. We're connecting the dots. Who exactly is Steve Mutsumi and what is he involved in?
I still don't know who Mr. Mutsumi. That's why this morning I still asked Sergeant Kosi, who is this Steve Mutsumi?
Could he be the possible principal of the cartel, not the head?
What I know is a person who was very close, was one of the inner circles of the late Mr. Mkhwanazi.
He's a very powerful figure within and outside the police and possibly linked to influencing the appointment of provincial heads of the Hawks.
That's information we've gathered.
Who is Z Kumalo? And are you aware of what he is involved in and why he's involved with directing SAPS investigations and has access to confidential SAPS information?
What we became aware about who Z is was that he is a person that was working very close with the late Mkhwanazi, and as a person who was the brain behind the taxi finance. He was managing the taxi finance under Santaco. So that's a relationship that we know of him. We've seen on the WhatsApp chats now about the case that he had opened and the communication then between him and Sergeant Kosi and them. But to what extent is involvement that we cannot say what else that he does. But we know him as a person who's been running the taxi finance as a business within Santaco.
Very influential, tender fraud, corruption, linked to Sergeant Nkosi, allegedly demanding and directing investigations through Sibia's office.
Yeah, well, we don't have evidence of that yet.
Was in contact with Suleiman Karim and others linked to the cartel, including Msibi, linked to those characters.
what I'm aware of is that he connects with many people. There are many politicians that he communicates with. So whether he's part of the squad that has been investigated, we don't have that on record as yet.
Who is Suleiman Karim?
Suleiman Karim comes to the picture because of the communication between him and Ket Matlala regarding that contract in the police, the health contract. We learned that I don't know if he's still a secretary or is a former secretary of a political party in Northwest, but he's a
Yeah.
businessman in Northwest.
Did he pay Cat? He's the financier. Did he pay Cat 10 million and was almost a silent partner in the 360 million tender? They're saying they can't hear? Yo. Yo, imagine. Suleiman paid Cat 10 million and was a silent partner in the 360 million tender. Involved in Morgan Maumela and paid him money involved with. Received information about Matala's contract and is linked to Brown Mkhwanazi and the Minister of Police. Am I correct?
Yeah, honorable members, maybe you might want to also somehow, I don't know how you're going to do this, but engage with the Madlanga Commission, because they've got analysts, they've got more of this information that have been extracted from communication between people that are forensic evidence that might help you to make a better decision going forward, which you're asking me about it now is not in front of me. I might confirm some of the things, some of them I might make a mistake because we take it from what sometimes we hear on the media.
Okay.
But there is money communication between them,
That's
or many transfers between them.
Do you know Jerry Boshoga? And what is the connection between Jerry, Kat, Sibia, Molefi, Mkhwanazi, Steve, and Suleiman?
I'm not so sure about all those that you have mentioned. There are some of them partly that I know that there's been issues of drugs, and there are some of them that is issues obvious of taxes involvement.
I've got, he's a drug manufacturer and distributor involved in sophisticated criminal syndicates since 2012, accused by Kat Matlala of manufacturing drugs on his farm, owed multiple drug syndicates money, which may explain why he was abducted and tortured.
That's information that we have as part of the investigation.
Morgan Maumela, what is his relationship with Kat, General Sibia, Molefe, Suleiman?
So again, honorable member, I cannot necessarily tell what is the nature of the relationship, but I know that the team have got some communication. The Gauteng team has got some communication between them that seems to suggest that there's some business transactions happening.
This Gauteng team that everyone has been looking all over besides in there. Morgan is a tender fraud and also involved in corruption, implicated as a key figure that's linked to General Sibia. I'm not even sure why Sibia is still getting paid. Implicated as a key figure in the 2 billion Tembisa hospital tender scandal. Correct?
We heard about it, yes, sir.
Linked to 41 companies involved in major tender fraud. Named in SIU reports and has appeared in the Madlanga Commission, accused of running a tender network that influenced the awarding of government healthcare contracts to companies linked to him. Almal in Sibia se basket. And then we have Ignatius Pello. What is the relationship with the same list of characters that I've been mentioning? Kat, Molefe, Mkhwanazi, Karim, and this guy. Do you know who he is?
No, I'm not sure.
Have you established why the deputy president of the Patriotic Alliance, Kenny Kunene, was at Katiso Molefe's house at the time of his arrest?
No, I didn't get the details as to the reasons for him being there.
I'm asking this because pictures have surfaced showing Kunene with individuals such as General Sibia, Msibi. He was at the house of an alleged murderer and crime kingpin, Molefe. And this is why I'm asking.
Yeah, people do have relationships that are informed or influenced by something. At times we'll know, sometimes we won't know. So I guess as the team is investigating, we're able to uncover the truth
Okay.
of the relationship.
I'm just making sure the team has all the names with these question marks. No
Yeah,
stone left unturned.
So far, all what you are reading out are on the pie chart of the team.
My concluding point. When one considers the individuals named and the allegations already before this committee, can you confirm whether the cartel at the center of all of this is responsible for a coordinated network of complex criminal activity, including, because if I researched all of these people, it's like a company, I said this yesterday, with various departments. Drug manufacturing and distribution is but one of the departments, how this cartel operates. It's all interlinked. The people that I've mentioned here possibly linked to the country's cash in transit heist. Am I correct?
Not possible, they are.
They are.
Yes.
Kidnapping and ransom,
Yes, they are.
because this very guy by the name of Mr. Ishmael, he was also introduced by General Sibia to Jerry's family.
The work that has been done, especially in Gauteng, there's more that could be done if the capacity is there. I've said before, honorable members, I'm glad you're asking this question about the rewards to the members because it still pains me today. We are where we are today because of two sergeants that started this problem. They were joined by another sergeant, and eventually they were joined by another team. But those two that resisted those envelopes from Shibiri, those two that resisted being convinced in parties where Mulifes and them were, those two that went ahead and made sure that the Vereeniging case is investigated, are the ones that are our heroes. Sadly, they remain sergeants. I'm told one was promoted now because Kumalo had to make a plan to try and promote him. But the other one is not. They remain sergeants to date. We had pleaded with the National Commissioner to reward these members. We've had excellence awards. Unfortunately, they didn't get a single certificate for the work they've done. Now, this is the Gauteng squad I'm talking about. What we complain about, which is the first thing that means that disbanded. We said that before, which I kept on referring to what Honorable James have done yesterday, to realize that we've always been barking at the wrong tree. PKTT was never a problem. The problem was what was happening in Gauteng, which organized crime unit in Gauteng was involved, and counterintelligence in Gauteng got involved later. That is where the issues were. PKTT members that only came to assist, and they went back. They didn't even stay there. They came, did what they did, and they went back. They remain in KZN. But the ones that remain in Gauteng to do the job are the ones that this country and this government should really be rewarding. They remain sergeants. We've said before, I'm the general, yes, who might regard me as a person who brought this to the surface. But the people that really were feeling the heat are the ones that are carrying a case docket. Day and night being approached by different people. A sergeant doesn't earn much. So it's easy for these people loaded with money to approach them and bribe them with money. But they refuse that.
Okay.
And we have not recognized them. The ones that I talked about, honorable member, last time were PKTT members. Those PKTT members that have done the wonderful job that Honorable Mkhwanazi spoke about, were promised to be rewarded last year. That was put on hold, postponed, simply because of the letter of the minister. Minister Commissioner promised that he's going to do something to them. The next Excellence Awards came and gone. They still did not get anything
Okay.
to date. So none of those have been rewarded with anything.
Okay. I think it's very unfortunate, and it's noted, General. I mean, I remember even the last time you came here, how you spoke of that matter. Hence, I thought to ask. But now, tell me, General, the new leadership, I'll suppose, well, I suppose this is only really the minister that's new, but are you getting any sense of reforms that are being put in place as this process proceeds to begin to deal with a lot of the issues that are being uncovered?
I think the difficulty, well, I'm at the province. The minister, acting minister, kept on promising to come to the province. So we haven't necessarily engaged much or get much of the directive of how we should do things with the acting minister. But I understand he's acting. So there's maybe limitation what he can do. We, right at onset, I had warned him about the chief of staff in his office because he walked into the office as one individual. I think he brought only one advisor with him. But the staff he found there is a staff that to date are assisting Minister Mkhwanazi to phone people that are in witness protection. It's the same staff in that office. So how is the acting minister going to maneuver in that space? I don't know how he does it. But from where I'm sitting, the limited engagement looks promising, but there's nothing yet that is before me that I can put as a reference. But so far, the engagement is encouraging. That's why I even know now that actually IP have told the acting minister that that matter they were investigating, where did the complaint come from?
Okay. General, okay, you said something very interesting here, which I hope I'm going to have time to come back to about minister phoning people in witness protection. But I want to know, General, Namhla's docket, is it back with the PKTT? How far is the case now?
No, the docket was sent back to the Eastern Cape. So I do not know what's the status of the docket, but it was.
But I
sent
thought the
back.
PKTT has not been disbanded and it was a PKTT document. Why is it gone back to the Eastern Cape?
It was a directive that was given that the only the KZN, remaining KZN, Eastern Cape must go to Eastern Cape. That's a directive that was given. So I do not know the reason behind.
By who now, General? Okay, sorry, I'm getting confused. Let me explain why. Because the issue of station of origin and where the dockets go, it sounded like it had been completed. Then we were told, I think just after Madlanga Commission started, we were told that the dockets were returned to yourself in KwaZulu-Natal. Who then gave a directive for these dockets to then be dispersed again?
With your permission, honorable members, I've got my colleagues here. I can ask Gerald Kamani to get this before we finish this so we can give you the response. Because
Are you happy with that decision? Because I got the sense that Namhla's family, Namhla's community, South Africans were looking to the PKTT to work on this matter and resolve it. Were you happy with the decision that the dockets are now dispersed once again?
Look, I cannot say I was happy or not. I remain in KZN. So cases that are outside KZN, I cannot fight for them. Doesn't matter how I might look at it, because I might then be judging the colleague in the province that are not able to do the job. If it was still a KZN docket that was taken somewhere else, I was not going to be pleased. But in this instance, I can't necessarily comment much because the incident did not happen in KZN anyway.
Okay, I'm sure the general who's awaiting to be on the witness stand will help us there. I did say, General, that I didn't have many questions for you, so I went to fundraise some questions. And there were people on social media who gave me a few questions. There was a guy called Malia Vusa Mulaudzi. Says that when you came before us, you said there's an MP that if you name, our country will burn. Now, I'm raising this within the context of you talking about members of parliament. You remember, Mos, at some point you even pointed at all of us. In your evidence, you only led evidence against Honorable Collar Barnett and Honorable Adams. Are there MPs that you still believe are enabling, to use your words, all of this rogueness within criminal intelligence?
Yeah, well, thus far, those are the people that we've identified in terms of enabling. But in terms of benefiting from crime intelligence, that is the angle I was coming with when I said, if the intelligence were to name those that are benefiting financially from crime intelligence, is that what was going to cause a problem?
After everything that we've been through, General, do you think it's still correct that things are being hidden in such a manner? I mean, we've had long debates here about how you can't classify criminality and all sorts of things. Now, if criminal intelligence is aware of such things, is it correct that, we're still keeping all of these things hidden? How are we ever going to get rid of the problem then?
South Africa is not immune from the operations of intelligence all over the world. There is no country that is going to disclose everything, how they do it. But the parliamentarians must find a way through your colleagues in the Joint Standing Committee to get to know how safe are we, whether these, what we see as a systematic failure, are they being corrected? Because that committee oversees 3 intelligence communities in this country. Crime intelligence is but one. There's defense intelligence and there's state security. If crime intelligence has a budget of, as Mr. Polisolven will talk about, the million, maybe 100 million rand or 600 million rand, state security might have tripled that amount. And the entire budget is secret fund. So if there is misuse of funds in the police, there is a likelihood that perhaps in other agencies, similar things happen, or even worse. So it is important that the parliamentarians take note of this. We cannot then come and open our methods of operations on covert things before the world, because this is an international people watching this, international intelligent people that are watching these things. So there's limitation in what you can tell, but you cannot tell. And it's not a secret of government, the government that is there on the day. No. It's for the safety of the country, beyond the administration that is voted in. Every president coming in, the executive come in, must comply with the act of keeping such secrets and operations of government. Otherwise, when we are transparent, we're going to regret one day. So we can't always display everything we do.
Okay, I think that's up for debate. General, there's a witness that testified here. I can't remember whether it was Mr. Mlotshwa or Mr. Adams who said the National Commissioner was at the gate of prison, and that was the trigger for the media briefing. Now, you today speak very authoritatively that had the National Commissioner been arrested, Sibiya would have been appointed National Commissioner. Now, I don't want to leave this open-ended. I need to understand, what do you base this on? Because the President appoints the National Commissioner. Now, what makes you so sure that Sibiya would have been appointed National Commissioner? And I hope that you were not insinuating that then the President would have acted in concert with these criminal syndicates. Can you just give us the basis for that statement that you made?
The President, not necessarily about the current president, even presidents in the past, they will always listen to a person that they've appointed as a cabinet member responsible for the department on the recommendations of what is the course of action to be taken next. So when you have a national commissioner arrested, he's not dismissed. So it means there must be a fitness board that is going to follow thereafter. In the interim, what do you do? The president get influenced by someone. I don't, sitting here today, I do not believe that President Zuma knew a person called Mkhwanazi for him to take a decision that when he suspends...
So who influenced him?
when he suspends Cele, he then picks up Mkhwanazi, who's a major general, to come and act with no political credentials, nothing, just a simple task force member. Someone, I believe, a senior police officer within that system of closer to the president, threw my name in there, maybe via the minister as well, but it was influenced by a police officer that landed to the desk of the president. And the president says, okay, I take this man. And he becomes acting national commissioner. When I'm not complying with the directives, then they go back and ask, but this person you brought to us, who is he? So they were frustrated after that. So that's why I moved out. So when it happened to me, it means it can happen to anyone. So I believe that the likelihood of an acting person being appointed without involving the minister of police is almost zero. The president will have been influenced, correctly so, with the recommendation coming to him, coming from the cabinet member responsible to say, let's put this one in the meantime to hold the fort.
Okay.
I don't
Now-
think it would have been wrong even for that decision to be taken.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I hear you, General, but I think we can put that down to supposition. Because Honorable Mates, for example, read to you the president's affidavit in relation to ministers' authority to disband PKTT. President disagreed with the minister. So I would say that you were assuming it was a supposition, even maybe conjecture at this point. It's not a given.
We are in this today because of the disbandment of the PKTT. If the president says he did not agree with it, I'm still waiting like anyone else to see action against the same minister. So what the information I have is the role that Spear was playing in this process of disbanding this team, his active role that he was playing and how he was engaging with the minister, the relationship. There's WhatsApp communication, how he influenced the ministers, deputy ministers, how to manage the National Commission. We spoke about it. The evidence is there. Well, I was not there, and I will invite you to get the Director General at the Civilian Secretariat, who was a secretary of the panel when they were looking for the head of DPCI, to come and tell you what happened in that panel and how the minister wanted Spear to be in that panel, only to discover that he does not meet the requirement. So with all that put in place and what we see happening, the Spear's attitude, I cannot help but to conclude that with that information we receive was correct, that he will have been the next person walking into that office. Had that been done, we would have closed shop today. And I must, with the support of Mr. Adams and anyone else, it's true. I did mention when I was here that the National Commission was a door prison. So Mr. Adams didn't thumbs up that. He took it from me.
Okay. You know where you and I differ, General, on a number of issues is that I'm really trying, as difficult as it is, to stick to the letter of our terms of reference, which is investigate the veracity of the allegations. So, I remember earlier on today, you addressed me on the issue of the minister. It's because we need to get to the veracity of the allegations. So that's why I also did not want to leave this one open-ended. Honorable Wessels asked you for a comment, and I think you probably forgot to comment on Brown Mokgotzi's allegation that you are or you were a CIA agent. Could you just comment on this? Why would this gentleman say you and the king were working together, Silo Samabandla? I don't know what you were doing about coal and Israel and China. Do you have any comment on those allegations, General?
Yeah, well, the honorable member made a comment. He didn't ask me to respond on it. He just passed a comment. These are some of the things that I wanted to speak about when I come here. But I then thought, Brown Mokgotzi is just an information peddler. He hears things and he claims to be having knowledge about it. He gets involved in some of the things, but then exaggerate his involvement on some of things. I do hope that the USA as a country, independent country, and Israel take action against Brown Mokgotzi for that what she said. He withdrew it here. but I wish they take action against him. Because he was just thumb sucking to create a story. That's him. And when he said at one stage he went to Kenya and did all those things, and he was part of of Thabo Bester's arrest, amongst others. It's a person that is closer to the people that are involved in doing things, but he makes it his own. That's why I made an example about Ket Matlala have told him that he had came to see me in Devon. But because he did not remember where the meeting was, he came here, he said it was a house. He even put a house number. There's a house number on his statement. And that house number of his statement, it's a house which is a police house at Mkhwanazi. Someone gave him the house number and said, this man stays in this house number. Put that on the statement. So you can see that he had the story, he acted as if he's the one who was part of it. So the CIA thing is a narrative that people will use, mainly politicians will say you are an agent of this because they want to suppress your opinions on things. I've been in many continents thanks to the South African Police Service. Different countries all over the world, they've traveled. I've trained with many units out there. But I cannot be classified as an agent of any. So I must be an agent of Jamaica. I've been into Jamaica. I must be an agent of Trinidad and Tobago. I must be an agent of Zimbabwe, an agent of Mozambique. So why is he not picking up everything that sits on my passports? And he goes and he throws those ones because they're going to be a bit sensitive. Why he chose the king? I don't know. I think he just played on something that he wants to create so that it sounds as realistic as possible. I do hope and pray that the Americans and the Israelis, they are watching this, they hunt him down and they take action against him.
Okay. General Sentimule, when she was speaking to us, I just need you to help us with this one. She said that she made the call for those dockets to be released on the 6th of December, whenever. In your knowledge, since there was a lot of moving of dockets, what should she have done? What due diligence should she have exercised on moving off dockets from where they were?
A person that cannot be trusted, as Sentumule, as you have heard on the communication between MSB, I think she did what she should be doing as a person that cannot be trusted. If she was a person that could be trusted, she would have told Sibia that I'm a divisional commissioner, I've got no business with dockets in KZN. If you want to say anything about the dockets, go to Mkhwanazi and talk to him.
And then the dockets that were were they at the inspectorate with Captain Phillips? Do you know how? Same thing.
Same thing. She's a divisional commissioner of detectives. She's phoned by IDEC and they tell her that they want dockets that are sitting in inspectorate. The question you should be asking first, how did they get to the inspectorate to start with? Now, the state, the province where the dockets come from, if you go and check their system, I believe even today, those dockets are still open. That system is open. Those dockets were transferred from that station to the provincial office. That's what the system will tell you. How they move from there to inspectorate, from inspectorate to IDEC, when the portfolio committee of police calls us to account and they want to know the status of those dockets, the system will tell you they are still at the provincial office in Gauteng, and yet Gauteng has never seen them.
Okay, I know that you'd already testified about rogue elements within IDEC, so I'm not going to do that. I suppose it's just trying to join the dots of everything finally. This gentleman, Mr. Steve Mutsume, I know you've been asked a few questions about him, but I'm more interested in what you know of him and what the SAPS officials know of him, that you would have even said in your text message to General Sinona. You would have even said, you are risking your lives. Don't blame me if you are found out and you're risking your life. General, that's quite a loaded statement, especially coming from a police officer. So who is this man and what's his modus operandi that even you, General, say, don't blame me if something happens to you? What did you think would happen to them?
Well, I was only relaying a message because I put those words there because they had pleaded with me not to expose our conversation to him. Their explanation about Steve Mutsumi was that he's the one who has taken over from the Big Five. That's what they were telling me. And they say this man controls just about everything, from government officials to business, tenders, drugs, you name it. That's why they're that afraid that Sibia collects money from him. That's why they gave me the address of where Mutsumi lives and where is the house where he meets up with Sibia. So it is them that gave me all this information. So when they describe this person as a god of criminality in the country that they are afraid of, I was not going to go and expose that. But because they introduced that meeting, I warned Sinona. If Nona was really concerned, as he was when he appeared before Matlanga, he would have reached out to me and said, Matlala has caused a problem. Please don't go ahead and release these names, because I gave it to him on WhatsApp. But he didn't. Instead, they're trying to twist what the meeting was about. That's when I concluded that, well, it might as well come out public. I did not know, I still don't know the face of Steve Mutsumi, but they told me who is Steve Mutsumi.
Can we take it that there are investigations that are underway on?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely, because subsequent to that meeting, I had to pass it to Charukumal and them and say, Kat Matlala tells me that, Kat and Snon are telling me that there's a gentleman called Steve Mutsumi that lives at Waterfall Estate, and he's got a property here in Sentin, and this is what he does.
Okay.
So they are then investigating as a result.
Okay. General, I want to disagree with something that you said earlier. In fact, I believe that you were reprimanding the MPs, where you were talking about them and about us and, you know, having opinions. General, we're not a court of law here. We're public representatives. And we are not obliged to either be impartial or objective. We represent the views of people, and from time to time you'll hear us saying even things that people are saying out there. So I want to disagree with the notion that we cannot have views on a matter. Where you are correct is that once all that is said and done, we then need to objectively apply our minds to what we've heard. But it can't be. I disagree with you when you want to reprimand MPs for either demonstrating an affinity or lack of affinity to a particular witness. I don't think that is the role of the MPs. And I'm laying this as a background because I want to come to now where I disagree with you. And I think there's always been two issues. And I was hoping that by the time you come back, because when I asked you the first time, especially around issues of evidence around Minister Mkhwanazi, one of the things you said was that, no, Khumalo is going to come here. Ask him, he'll give you evidence. And unfortunately, General Khumalo came, there was no evidence. He said there was no evidence. General Masemula, and so forth and so forth. Now, that point has already been canvassed by members. I don't need to go back. But on the overreach of power, please do comment on this so we close it and we move, right? You've said today that, and I'm happy you said this, right? And this is not because I'm defending Minister Mkhwanazi. I honestly did not believe that Minister Mkhwanazi was part of a drug cartel. So you've said today you believe he was influenced, you believed that he was misled. Then you said, and when you were explaining that, you said, that's why you wanted to speak to him, so that you could just advise him, right? And maybe if he heard you and saw, I am assuming that what he was doing was wrong, he would have listened. The National Commissioner also said he would have tried to speak to them, but at that point, neither you nor the National Commissioner had issues of overstepping his powers. At that point, you just thought, no, but this is a wrong decision, not that you couldn't take that decision. What would be your comment to that?
I will say, for me, it was overstepping his powers. I did not want to wait for the National Commissioner to approach the minister. I felt after reading that, I said, Minister is not allowed to do this. Let me talk to him. Someone has influenced him wrong. That's why I call him immediately. I call the Chief of Staff to get into a meeting with him. I was honestly hoping that we're going to meet and talk about this.
Because-
with the hope that I can warn him about the things where he's overstepping.
Okay, Honorable Adams testifies that nobody had a problem with this disbandment of the PKTT, right? Then he uses examples like the portfolio committee meeting and so forth and so forth. And he says, okay, I don't want to put words into his mouth now, but he says everything was going along fine. The National Commissioner says all he disagreed with was approach, né? That it shouldn't be immediately, but rather phased in over time. And if I put it to you that it was only then when you got the downloads from Minister Matlala that you then began to put together this whole issue of defeating the ends of justice and misrepresentation. But before that, it was never about whether he had the authority or not. You disagree with that?
I repeat again, Honourable Member, I think it was on the 2nd, if not the 3rd of January, shortly after the letter came out, that I reached out to the minister because I was against that which he wrote there. I was not against in the main about issues of intelligence because I did not know the background around it. Knowing that the regulation that's been amended gives him the powers now, and the SCPS management has not challenged that. So I assume that one is within him. I did not know what was happening with the border security. It does not fall under my command, so I didn't pay attention. What I was concerned about his role in taking a decision to shut down a team, it's that what was concerning me. And when I spoke and made some examples strongly with the Chief of Staff, Chief of Staff delivered the wrong message to the minister, or correct message, I do not know. But the minister took offense of that. That's why he advised the Chief of Staff to record me in a second conversation. So when the Chief of Staff came the second time around, and I'm sure you heard it in a conversation, that the only thing I wanted to do was to sit down with my leader and talk to him. He did not afford me that opportunity. Instead, he sent people to record me, which means the decision he took on the 31st, he took it consciously. He knew what he was busy with. The time passes by. I see all the wrong in between. That made me realize something is still not right. In April, I sent him a message requesting for an audience.
General, I'm so sorry. I hear you. I hear you. I'm in injury time now. Okay, don't you find it strange, General, that every single officer that we have spoken to says they did not know Mr. Matlala until they read in December what of his contract and whatnot. I'm finding that very, very hard to believe, and I'll tell you why. The meeting at the Pearls happens on
In April last year.
in April last year.
Yes.
This is April that other year.
The incident of Matlala for contract is 2024.
Yes, 2024.
Yes.
You meet him in 2025.
25. That time I know about the investigations against him, about the contract, everything.
So
Not deny that.
when you were setting up then the sting operation with criminal intelligence, this guy had not been in your radar until the News 24 story about his contract.
I do not know what was happening at head office. But Ket Matlala, I think when he comes into the picture with the team, it's the team that is investigating the drug issues, the Vereeniging case. As they're investigating the Vereeniging case, then they pick up the links that brings this case into forensic, into detectives, and then Ket Matlala pops in. That's how they pick it up. That's why they raid in this.
So that's long before Minister Mkhwanazi cancels the thing on the 20th of December, right? Because those investigations happened and then they culminated on the interventions or the actions on the 6th of December.
Yeah, that's why I kept on saying, Honourable Member, Minister Mkhwanazi arrives there in June, July. of 2024, but he writes a directive in December. I don't even think he knew what is the annual performance plan of the police look like and the strategic plan, but he writes a disbandment of the team. So the period tells me that the minister was not aware about what's happening and he was influenced to take this decision. I believe still that in the presence of the minister, I was not in that meeting, but when the minister sits in a meeting and he says, there's a problem about this contract, I think we need to cancel it, or whether those words he used or not. But looks like he's the one, the Minister who initiated the cancellation. From
Yes,
what I
and that's
gather.
what I'm saying, General. And the police knew about Ket Matlala even before the minister said cancel this thing because
That's
he was
correct.
being investigated. Isn't that strange that they let it go? They're busy investigating. They know this guy is here, but he's still doing health services for the police, and nobody claims to know him until the story breaks in December.
But the team already knows about the criminality that involves him on drugs. It's not the same people that are part of these contracts. So I don't even think, sitting here now, if you ask me the contracts that you have in the police, I won't tell you. Because I don't pay attention on those. I'll focus on what I do in my province. But there are many contracts we have in the organization. I don't believe the team was aware about the awarding of the contract and all those things as to who is involved. Even me, I didn't even know there's a contract given, who is the contractor. It's one of those things that we don't get involved from the operation side.
How do you then, when you think about this, how do you explain Minister flagging this contract and calling for its cancellation? Because it's one of the things that he puts forward
I
and
applaud
says, why would I do this if I'm working with them?
No, I applaud that. And I'm still saying again, I don't think Minister knew Ket Matlala. It is after the decision, when Ket Matlala approaches Brown Mkhwanazi to complain that this man I'm feeding through you is doing this.
Okay.
That
Right
what
there
sparked
on
the action
feeding.
from Ket Matlala, from Mkhwanazi and Suleiman in Northwest. Because Ket Matlala is crying to them that you are saying to me, I must pay for this January 8 and this on behalf of the minister. But here is a minister taking a decision. So I like to believe a minister will not take a decision against Ket Matlala if he knew that Ket Matlala is supporting him financially. Surely he didn't know him. That's why he takes a decision, because it's been played by these Mkhwanazi and them.
General, I know that the investigations are still ongoing, but to date, have you found any evidence of Ket Matlala financially supporting the minister, using your words, whether it's for his presidential campaign? Remember, you said Brown Mkhwanazi is an information peddler, takes things and make it as if. So I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that Brown Mkhwanazi goes around and says, I'm telling the minister this, I'm doing this. In fact, that was the view that I got. Do you believe that you are, I am respecting the fact that you said there's investigations, but you are close to finding a link between Minister, money, Ket Matlala?
Well, the investigation happening in KZN, I've not been briefed about that. But the investigation happening in Gauteng, again, I cannot confirm because it's not in my space. What I believe still to date is that in the main, minister's role that leads into the criminal investigation is the action of that letter, is the interference with the police work. And when there's efforts to try and bring this to their attention, he doesn't want to take it, which therefore means he's been influenced and he believes the people that influenced him. If that was not the case, I wouldn't understand why would I ask for a meeting with the minister. He calls me to come to Pretoria on behalf of SBIA, peace talk. He still acknowledges my request, but he let me go back to Durban without even engaging me on that one. He is a Brown Mkhwanazi that is his comrade. I raise issues in the open meeting of Parliament about Brown Mkhwanazi. He doesn't pause to question, but what did Brown do? So that he can get to hear more. He doesn't, he just brush it off and he continues with Brown. So it's a person that you are warning about what's happening and he ignores you. What can you do? You can conclude that means he's aware of what's happening.
Okay.
So without you having a concrete evidence, but his attitude tells you that he knows very well what's happening. It just makes sure that it cannot be traced. He push it far away and he operates from the distance.
Okay. Now, you also took umbrage with the reasons that he advanced for the disbandment, right? Cost effectiveness and cost, and then the effectiveness of the PKTT. I won't go into that, but he did put a reason that I also thought was probably plausible when he said the PKTT should be a national PKTT. Do you dispute that?
You cannot arrive here and you say your surname is Mkhwanazi, whereas my surname is Mkhwanazi. So he arrives in the police, PKTT is on black and white, written. He comes and he adds an N on top of it. Where does he get it from? So he started creating his own thing. And all members, with respect, this team started in 2018. Everything written on this paper does not have an N. But when he comes in...
That's not my question. Okay,
No.
I want to stop you because my question is, he says part of the reason why he wanted to disband it was so that he could spread the capacity throughout the country. I mean, I was talking to you now about Eastern Cape and the need for a similar thing in other provinces. I'm sure you just said they opened in Gauteng. So one of the reasons he raises is that you needed a national PKTT. First, he says that was a national police task team operating in KwaZulu-Natal, but then he wanted to disband it so that they could spread the capacity of the PKTT across the country. You disagree with that
I
reason?
disagree. That's why I'm starting with the N. Because in his mind, it's a national thing. I can do what I like. Wrong, Minister. This is in province, KZN. So it does not have an N. That's a start. Second to that, you sign a letter on the 31st of December after you figure out that you need to reorganize the service. You disband this, you close the post, freeing of the vacancies and stuff like that. There is no work study. There is no this and that here. When you are asked, you start running around and finding reasons. The reasons of money, the CFO comes here and say, no, Minister, money was not a problem. Find something else. He says it before you. She said it before you. And then the minister goes and phones someone somewhere in a witness protection and say, please give me a statement. And that person records it. And they present it. Oh, this reason doesn't fly. What another reason? Another reason this and that. So the minister try and figure out to justify the action because he had no material to justify it.
3 minutes left.
Yes.
Sorry, I get your answers. I'm not interrupting you. Very quickly, you said that you once took one of the cars that was meant for the king and you put it on operations. I think that's a laudable thing. But also, I remember yesterday, Honorable Skosan raised a question around traditional leaders, kings in particular. General Masemola said only 2 are being protected. Now that the mandate of the PKTT has been expanded to include traditional leaders, one is the traditional leaders only in KwaZulu-Natal, and 2, what about the rest of the traditional leaders, especially the kings throughout the country? Is there any plan for security around them? Is there any plan for even security and threat analysis, or do you just leave them like that? If I could get a shortened version of the answer so that I can pose my last one.
I'm going to request honorable members that you look at the legislation and guide us as South African Police Service on what to do. There is no responsibility given by the law to the South African Police Service to protect the kings. The only kings we look after are the heads of states, the king of Eswatini, amongst others. Those are the ones we protect when they come to the country. The ones in the country, there's no legal authority we have.
But General Masemola said there are 2 that you look.
We have no legal authority. Listen to what I'm saying, honorable member. We are doing it. The Portfolio Committee of Police, the Auditor General of South Africa don't hold us into account. So we continue doing it.
All right. So that's a reform that we need to look at. Lastly, General, please can you, because I know that I'll be stopped before I finish, I want to ask you to comment on the Zulu war issue. But then I had told you that I had fundraised some questions for you. So I'm going to throw this so that this person is not upset with me. The person is called Nhlanhla, and they say, I don't have a question for the general. Just tell him we love him and we shall always stand by him. What a man, what a giant. History will remember him. So I wanted to pass on that message to you, General. I won't pass on the ones of the many, many ladies who have sent me messages to you. Can you please comment on the Zulu war, General?
I think, honorable member, there is, and I would like you to take it to your own political party, because from my assessment where I'm sitting, there is a problem between the former minister and the current minister, Minister Mkhwanazi and former Minister Cele. What is the problem? I don't know. And we somehow, I feel like we're getting caught in the middle, and we are painted as the people that are siding with this one and not that one. We worked with Cele. We worked very well. He's gone. He's no longer minister. We have a new minister. We must work with a new minister. I pleaded with the minister to come and visit KZN. Minister Mkhwanazi will tell you that. So we can brief him about policing in KZN. He has not done that. Now, when people are then influencing him that we are Cele's people, if he takes that attitude, it then creates more divide. And an outsider will then say it's a Zulu war.
Thank you so much.
That is the unfortunate reality.
Yeah.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Chairperson.
The grace period of the member has expired. I want us to take a break, Chief Whip. Otherwise, we are going to sit for 4 hours. We are left with 3 speakers now. We must take a break and come after 15 minutes, which will be 22.